Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to an introduction to Embase. I'm Janice Masood Paul from the libraries, and I'm here with my colleague, Kathleen Turner. The objective of this webinar is to show you the type of information that you'll find in Embase, why you want to use it, and the differences between Embase and other health science databases. We'll also demonstrate 3 search modes: the quick search, the advanced search, and the Pico search. Embase is a biomedical database that has about 8,100 research journals, including Medline titles. Coverage goes back to around 1947. It represents journals from more than 95 countries. It also includes conference abstracts and other types of documents. In comparison with Medline, Embase has deeper coverage of international journals, especially European literature. It's particularly strong on pharmaceutical information, chemical compounds, and medical device research. Even though everything in Medline can be found in Embase, each of these databases indexes its content in different ways. So that means the same search strategy can give you different results. It makes sense to search both Embase and Medline. So it's probably easier for us to show you rather than just tell you about it. So I'm going to do a live demo. We'll be looking at the quick search mode, advanced search mode, as I mentioned, and Pico. And we'll be using basically the same search question throughout all modes, and that's: can plant-based diets slow the progression of dementia? So I'm going to go to the library's website and get started. Click on the library website, and here we go. We're at library.drexel.edu. This is our website. You can get to Embase in a number of ways from our website, but probably the easiest ways are databases A to Z. Just click on that, go to the letter E for Embase, and you'll find the link there. Probably a faster way with fewer clicks is to go to our health sciences resource page. So I'm going to select that. And you can see that under our research resources, and these are our more popular health science research resources, you'll find Embase. So there'll be Embase there with a little description of what is included. We'll just click on that. And by default, you will probably end up at the quick search mode page. Here's quick search here. And I'm going to put in a couple of keywords that are related to our topic. I'm going to start with vegan. And I'll use the OR command because I'm also going to look at vegetarian. And I'll look at plant-based. I'll say a bit about how I'm putting this search strategy together. In this case, I'm looking for the word plant-based as a phrase. I'm looking for those terms to be next to each other. So I am putting them in quotes. And you can use either single quotes or double quotes in Embase. And because these are synonyms for each other, like I'm looking for either information on vegan or vegetarian or plant-based, I'm not as concerned about which word it finds as long as it finds one of them. I'm using the OR command. I'm also going to put these in parentheses so that it's going to look for those keywords first. And then once it finds that information, I want it to look for those results that also discuss dementia. So I will add "and" here and the word dementia. And you might have noticed that as I type words, suggestions come up in the dropdown. Those suggestions are from the Emtree database, which Kathleen is going to say a little bit more about. You also have the option of searching on multiple lines. So you see this little plus sign here? I could have put in vegan, vegetarian, or plant-based, and let's say clicked on the plus sign. it would give me another line to search on, but I could also search in specific fields. So let's say if I wanted to target dementia in the title or abstract, I could select this option. But I'm just going to keep this search really simple, leave everything on one line, and I have 218 results. So I'll click on that to take a look at them. Embase gives you the option of editing your search string. If I hover over the search string here, you'll see there's a little pencil. I can click on the edit link and I could change my search strategy. So I might want to add something like, let's say cognitive decline here. And then I could test that search by clicking on the test icon. If I was happy with the result, I could click on accept and update. But I think I'm going to stick with my search the way I had written it originally, so I'll just cancel it. The other thing I wanted to point out is as you type your search strategy, Embase will translate the search for you. So not only is it searching for my keywords here, dementia, plant-based, vegetarian, and so on, it's also looking for those terms that appeared in the Emtree database. And again, we'll talk more about that with advanced searching. So I've got my 218 results. If I wanted to, I could filter them further. There are two different places in Embase where you can filter in the quick search. So one of them is below the search strategy here. And I kind of look at them as quick filters. For example, if I click on date, I have two options. I could look for my results or filter my results by publication year. So I could put in something like 2017 to 2022. I could also filter by when those items were indexed in Embase. Sometimes there's a delay between when something is published and when it's actually indexed in Embase. So the records added is not the same as the publication years. By the same token, there's another filter area that's in the left column here. If I scroll down to publication years, it's a little bit different than the quick filter because you'll see that there are years actually listed individually, but as important, there are facets. So this is going to tell me that in 2022, 16 of my results were published during that year, or 29 results were published during 2021. I'm just going to select 2022 through, let's see, 2017. And then I could filter it further. For example, let me compare this evidence-based medicine quick search to the study search in the left column. So this one for evidence-based medicine will allow me to restrict my results to certain types of studies. And for those of you who do evidence-based medicine and work with levels of evidence, you know, these are a little bit higher on the pyramid. So things like Cochrane reviews, systematic reviews, meta-analyses, randomized controlled trials. So I could select these to filter my search. But if I wanted a longer list, if I go down to study types, this is going to give me a lot more options. There are also facets here. So for example, I could filter for animal models, case reports, cohort analysis, and all different types of studies, regardless to where they fell on the evidence-based pyramid. I'm just going to keep this simple and limit it to human studies. Once I select the filters I'm interested in, if I scroll down to the bottom of that column, I'll apply them. So here it shows me that it took the first search that I ran on veganism and dementia, and then it applied those filters in my second search, and I have 98 results. You could look at these very brief citations, and they may give you some information, but it might not be enough for you to make a decision on whether they're relevant or not. So you may want to look at the abstract view of your citations. And if you missed that, I chose that, excuse me, by clicking on Show All Abstracts. So now I have an abstract view, and you can see it highlights the terms that I used in my search. That gives me some context for how it's being used. If you're interested in individual citations, it's just like most databases that you probably use. You can just select the citation by item number. So I just chose 1 and 2 and 4. I could either send them to the clipboard here where it says add to clipboard. Let's say I was still playing around with my search strategy. I found 3 I liked. I could add those to the clipboard. I could go back and edit again, do some more searching. But if I was done at this point, I could just export them. So I'm going to click on export. It should select those 3. You can send them to a bibliographic citation tool like Mendeley or EndNote. I think RIS format would also work with Zotero and some of the other tools that we have. If you click on this drop down, you'll notice that there are other formats that you can use for exporting, like CSV or Excel, if you wanted to send it to a spreadsheet, for example. In addition, you have the option of emailing those selected citations to yourself. It might require that you create an Embase personal account. And I'm already logged in as me, but there's a sign in link up here, and you can just sign in and create an account very easily, give it a password you want to use. And then you can, from that point, you could just email items to yourself. If you wanted to look at the full text of an article, you see that there is a full text option that's listed here. Now, if you've used any of our other databases, you may wonder where that little icon is. It says get it free at Drexel. Where you click on that icon, it will either take you to the full text or it'll give you an option to request it through interlibrary loan. We haven't had Embase for that long, so we haven't quite gotten that set up yet. So this link for view full text will take you to the publisher's website. Most of the time, when it takes you to the publisher's website, it's something that we're subscribing to. So you'll be able to download the PDF, or it will get you to an HTML version of the full text. In this case, it's open access, so you would have had access to it anyway. But every once in a while, when you select that publisher's link title, it may be something that Embase doesn't recognize we own. It could be that rather than subscribing to it directly from the publisher, it's part of a collection. CINAHL is a good example. Our CINAHL database also has a collection of full text articles that come along with it. But Embase may not recognize that we have a subscription to that. So when you click on it, they will be happy to provide it for you, but they may prompt you for a credit card. You never want to pay for any journal articles because chances are we either do have a subscription to it or it's something that we could get for you through interlibrary loan. So if that should happen, if you're using Embase, you choose full text, you're prompted to pay for the article. Again, don't pay for it. Just grab the title of the article. You want to cut and paste that into drag and search. So if I go back to our library webpage, you would just cut and paste that title here, search for it. And again, if we have it, it's something that's going to say it's available online and you can just get the full text. If we don't, it will give you the opportunity to log in and request it through interlibrary loan. So I think that's everything that I wanted to show you in the quick search. If there are not any questions, let me stop sharing. If there aren't any questions, I'm going to turn it over to Kathleen.
All right, let me hold on a second while I awkwardly get to the share screen. And Okay. I'm going to talk about some of the advanced searching features, specifically using the M-tree system for searching. And I just want to comment for a minute before I do that. You may have noticed that I'm using Chrome browser for this, and I think Janice was too. I think both of us have found that Embase tends to work a little bit better on Chrome than it does with Firefox. That's generally a good rule of thumb, that if you're using a database and it doesn't seem to be working well, switch browsers before you give up completely. So this is the advanced mode in Embase. And I'm basically going to repeat the same search that Janice did, but using terms that I find from M-tree. Now, if you're an experienced Medline searcher, you know that the most effective way to search is often using the mesh terms, the medical subject headings. M-tree is essentially Embase's equivalent to mesh terms. It's really very simple to use. So I'm going to start with it right up here. And I'm going to use the first term that Janice used in her search. And the first thing I'm noticing is that it's showing me both vegan and vegan diet as options. So I'm going to start looking at vegan. And I can see that that's under a hierarchy of named groups of persons. It doesn't have any narrower terms under it. The term next up in the hierarchy is miscellaneous named groups, which sounds very miscellaneous. I'm just going to stick with vegan. And I could either send it directly back to the search screen, or I can put it in the query builder up here. And since I know that I'm going to be choosing more terms equivalent to this, I'm going to work with the query builder. So I'm going to go back to vegan again, because I know that vegan diet was an option that it showed me. So again, I'm going to click on that to see the hierarchy. And here I can see that vegan diet is a narrower term under vegetarian diet. So I'm going to open that up. And I'm going to say, okay, I can get vegan diet and vegetarian diet, but it also includes all of the more specific types of vegetarian diet. Lacto-vegetarian, pesco-vegetarian. So I'm going to go with that as my search term. And again, I'm going to send it to the query builder. So here it is showing up, building my search, vegan or vegetarian diet. But I'm going to make a guess now that if there's a separate term for vegan, that there might also be a separate term for vegetarian as a person rather than as a type of diet. So I'm going to go back down here. And yes, vegetarian is showing up here. Again, this is in named groups of persons. And it gives me the narrower terms for lacto-vegetarian, pesco-vegetarian, and so on. Now, why vegan is not a narrower term under this and is listed separately, I don't know. Sometimes the hierarchies get a little bit vague. So again, I'm going to send that to my query builder. So we've got vegan, we've got vegetarian diet, which when that's exploded, and that's what that EXP means, includes all of those narrower terms. We've got vegetarian. So let's see what happens with plant-based. Well, it tells me that the preferred term for that is vegetarian diet, which is suggesting to me that plant-based is not an M-tree term in itself. So I'm going to take what I've got here and I'm going to send that to my advanced search screen. But before I press the search button to make that happen, I'm going to add in plant-based diet, just the way that Janice did, doing that as a text word phrase. Now, this is just one of the pieces of our search. We know that we want to put this together with dementia, but I'm going to go ahead and do this piece of it. And now it's showing my search history. And as you can see, I was playing along when Janice was doing her searching and did the same search steps just so that I would have them here to demonstrate. Now, I could have added dementia on before I did this, but I tend to be sort of old school with my searching methods. And I like to build my searches a piece at a time and then put the search statements together, primarily because that gives me then the flexibility to add terms or delete terms and combine things in different ways if I want to. So I'm going to go back to M-tree. We'll X out plant-based, and I'm going to look for dementia. And now when I find it here, this is being a little gorky on me, so there we go. Okay, when I find dementia here, again, it explodes out into an extensive hierarchy of additional terms that would be narrower than dementia in their hierarchy. I could move up to cognitive defect if I wanted to go a little bit broader. But if I stick with dementia, I'm including Alzheimer, I'm including Huntington chorea, I'm including mental deterioration. All of those terms are going to be in my search. If I didn't want them to be, I could just remove this check from explode, and that would mean that I'm searching the term dementia, but not any of these narrower terms. We definitely want to explode that. I could also choose this box to say that I want only the articles where that's really the major topic. So I've chosen dementia, exploded, And again, I'm going to put this in the query builder. And this time, because I know I don't need to add anything else to it, I'm just going to send it straight to the search. So I've got my search for dementia with 406,000 results. I've got my search for vegan or plant-based diet. And now I'm going to put those together. And like most databases, it gives me a very simple way to do these. I can just mark the boxes, and then it lets me choose, do I want to use and or? And because I'm looking for where these two topics overlap, I'm going to leave this at and I'm going to combine them. And it is slowly working here. There we go. Now I found, what did it find there? 85 results. Now that's slightly less than Janice found with her search, which is often the norm when you're using M-tree terms. M-tree terms tend to make your search a little bit tighter, a little bit more specific. Now I have the same options that we looked at before of limiting by dates, by publication types, by languages, and so on. And I can use those either from these quick limit options here or from the filters over on the side, where I can see how many apply specifically to one of the filters or the other. Now, if I chose gender here, I would be looking at the 20 articles that are studies that specifically include women. It doesn't mean that men aren't mentioned in the article. Embase handles gender and age groups essentially the same way that Medline does. Choosing female here would say that the studies that it's selecting includes females. It may also include males if we wanted to choose that. Again, looking through the results, we're seeing that many of the articles are exactly the same. Two useful things that I just want to point out are that right from here, I can look at all of the index terms from a specific article. I can also, up here at the top, use what they call the index minor, which basically shows me all of the index terms, the M-tree terms that are included in any of the citations I found and how frequently they show up. It's a great way of harvesting additional terms that I might want to add into my search. So as usual, I've gone a little longer than I meant to. So let me stop sharing and we will go back. And Janice, I think you were taking over from here.
Yeah, I was going to show you a Pico search. I will pass it back to you after that. But
okay.
But given the time, I'm just going to show you a very abbreviated form of using Pico with the search that Kathleen just did. So let me share my screen and see. Okay, so we're back at our lead page, our home page for Embase. And I'm going to choose Pico in this case as my search mode. The Pico search uses the Pico model to formulate search strategy for clinical questions. Pico is an acronym. It stands for population, intervention, comparison, sometimes you'll see control here, and outcome. And this is just a way to organize a search query to find evidence-based information. So I'm going to take the same search that Kathleen ran, and I'll put in the term vegan. And I would select from this list of entry entries. I'm going to just select vegan diet in this case. I have a few options. You can see that it automatically selects vegan diet in a way that's exploded. But I could also select it as a major focus. I could select it as a major topic and have it exploded. Or it could look, if I choose the /BR, it could look for it from the entry list as well as a keyword. That's the broadest way of looking at it. It's possible. But I'm just going to stick with vegan exploded. It also gives me the option of adding some of the synonyms it selects. So if I click on that, it tells me what synonyms it's using, including diet vegan, veganism, and so on. I'm going to stick with this the way it is, but if I didn't want to use all these synonyms, I could always click in the box to remove whichever one I didn't think was appropriate. And actually, I started with vegan, but that's not my population. My population is people with Alzheimer's. So let me repeat the vegan piece here under intervention. My mistake. Okay. Here we go, vegan diet. Okay. And vegetarian. I'll choose vegetarian diet here. I'll add those additional synonyms. And I'm going to look at plant-based.
I think it actually had plant-based as one of the synonyms there.
Yes, it might be a little bit redundant.
Yeah.
There might be some redundancies because you'll notice, and I found the same thing that you did, Kathleen, that plant-based isn't one of the entry terms, although plant-based diet is a candidate term for entry, which is interesting. It didn't show up when you were searching that way, meaning that it's a term that's under consideration for being an entry term, but it hasn't been added yet.
It's actually plant-based diet index, which seems to be a measurement of different types of diets.
Okay, so for this though, I think I'm just going to add it as a keyword term because that's what we've been working with all along to keep the numbers from being thrown off too much. They call it a plant-based as a free term, which is basically using it as a keyword. So if I click on this plus sign, it adds it with the other terms that I was using for interventions. I'm going to come back up and put in dementia, which is what I should have started with. Okay. All right, so I'm going to keep it as dementia exploded. We took a look at this in the M tree with Kathleen a moment ago, and it gives me a few other synonyms that it's using for dementia. So I've got my population now and my intervention. If I wanted to, I could add a comparison. We hadn't been looking at other interventions earlier. So I could do something like a lifestyle change like exercise and whether that's different than has a different result than say a vegan diet for slowing dementia. Or I could look at a drug or something like that. But for now, I'm just going to leave comparison empty. And that's perfectly fine when you're doing Pico. You don't necessarily have a comparative intervention. I am going to use an outcome though. And in this case, I'm going to put in prevention and choose prevention and control. And I think I'll just use that or leave that as an excluded option. see what these synonyms are. So it looks like these may be keywords, prevention and control. It actually gives me the option of adding a study design, which isn't necessarily part of Pico, but for now, I'm going to skip that in the interest of time. I have 52 results, so we'll just go ahead and look at those. So again, fewer results, I believe, than what Kathleen came up with, but this was putting it in the format where we could answer a clinical question. I wouldn't necessarily expect to have the same number of results. And also, I think there may have been 1 or 2 keywords that we didn't include in this search. So from this point, we could go ahead and limit our search results using the same methods that we did in the advanced or the quick search. And then selecting those items for review later would be exactly the same as what we were using earlier. At this point, I'm going to turn this over to Kathleen to wrap it up. So let me stop sharing.
All right. Do you want to put the PowerPoint back up? Just
I can do that.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's move this along. Say anything about the additional devices? We'll just go to the wrap up because of time.
Yeah. So
Okay, sounds good.
So,
sure.
So again, just to wrap up what we talked about, Embase is definitely a database that you want to consider when you're researching anything in the biomedical realm. It is particularly strong in its cover of international literature, medical devices, pharmaceutical literature, and those are the primary reasons people tend to use it. One thing we did not mention at the beginning, one of the significant differences between this and Medline is that Medline, of course, because it is a US government-produced database, is available free to anyone, anywhere. Embase is not. Embase is a proprietary database owned by our friends at Elsevier. So you will only have access to Embase at an institution that has a license or subscription to it. We looked at doing a simple basic search, doing a more advanced search using the Emtree terms, and doing a Pico search. There are also specialized searches that you can do for information about medical devices, about drug development, and what they call a pharmacovigilance search. We won't even touch those today. Just quickly, we are still learning this database. For the most part, it isn't nearly as complicated as it looks when you first go into it. But like all databases, the best way to learn how to use it effectively is to do it, to try things. You can't break it. Try new things, compare your results, and see what you get. And if you need help, reach out to us. You can find Janice and I easily through the library website, and we're always happy to answer your questions or to help you with searches. So thank you for joining us.